the future of utilities, unlocking the potential of smart grids within the Green Deal. Thank you very much for joining us today, this morning. We have a full session where we are going to discuss about Green Deal policies mainly, and how we square in the need of better grids for the Green Deal package. I'm Anca Dragu. I am Deputy General Director of E.ON Romania, and I'm going to be the moderator and of the first session and your guest for today. Thank you so much for participating, and also I would like to thank all my colleagues who contributed to this event. Let me tell you just a few words about the rules of this seminar in order to make the forum, the conference, as comfortable as possible for everybody. So I would kindly ask you to use your full name when joining the webinar. Please use the Q&A box to address questions. And also we recommend everybody to use the video camera when talking and to answer live, not privately, to questions. In order for the discussion flows to go smoothly, please note that you are all muted. Thus, we encourage you to use the Q&A session box to address questions. Let me just jump to the first guest we have for this morning. And we have here Dr. Thomas Koenig. Thank you so much, Dr. Koenig, for joining us this morning. And you know your agenda is very tight. Let me tell you a few words about Dr. Koenig. He's Chief Operating Officer of E.ON SA. Dr. Koenig began his career at Weber AG, a predecessor company of today's E.ON SA. Mr. Koenig held various senior positions in the areas of corporate planning and business administration, and in addition in the area of controlling. In 2006, Mr. Koenig was appointed Chief Financial Officer at E.ON Avacon and became Chairman of the Board of Management in the same year. Over the course of 2 years, Dr. Koenig successfully led a group-wide restructuring project at E.ON AG. In 2010, Dr. Koenig became the Chief Financial Officer and the Labor Director at E.ON Ruhrgas AG. As a member of the board at E.ON Energie AG in Munich, he then led the reorganization of the German sales and network business within E.ON. Since 2012, he has been a member of the management team at E.ON Deutschland, and since 2018, he has been CEO and CFO of Energienetze Deutschland with responsibility for E.ON's entire network business. Dr. Koenig, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anca, and good morning, everyone. I would like to warmly welcome all of you to this forum and congratulate my Romanian colleagues for the initiative of gathering us today at the celebration of the first 15 years of activity of E.ON in Romania. May many more to come and be successful. I hope that everybody is doing well, and I'm very grateful to all our teams that proved to be so reliable, passionate, and brave to keep our networks, and by that the whole society, up and running through these difficult times. I've been frequently asked in recent months if and how Corona will impact E.ON. And if our customers suffer from the crisis, and they do, this will of course not leave us unaffected. However, We are proud that we could keep our promises to our customers even in these difficult times. Our networks have proven strong even under very restrictive working conditions, and we will support our customers as best as we can. You may know that E.ON is one of Europe's largest operators of power and gas distribution networks and a leader in promoting network efficiency, reliability, and innovation. Currently, we are serving 34 million networks customers across Europe. We are carefully managing round about 1.3 million kilometers of energy networks, and we are the employer of choice for nearly 80,000 employees. We are all at the beginning of the transition to a low carbon future. This transition is taking place locally and regionally and is driven by our customers. Our customers want sustainable homes, working places, businesses, cars, and cities. Our customers are searching for efficient, affordable solutions that make them more autonomous. As a result, tomorrow's energy world will become increasingly electric, green, distributed, and above all, partnership-based. Networks will evolve into smart platforms that manage complex energy and at the same time data flows. An interconnected, digitized energy system will create lots of new opportunities for the society. In our vision, the Internet of Energy. At E.ON, we are welcoming all these opportunities and we are committed to meeting all related challenges. A consistently sustainable orientation is therefore part of our business strategy. Bringing renewable energy to our customers requires continuous innovation and the use of smart technologies. We have therefore increased our use of innovative digital solutions to monitor our networks, conduct predictive maintenance, and avoid line congestion so that more green power can be fed into our system, just to give you a few examples. As of today, a fleet of more than 800,000 renewable generators with a capacity of more than 70 gigawatts is connected to our grids, to my knowledge, more than everywhere else in Europe. Abundant low-carbon energy tomorrow will require substantial investments today. Year on year, we are spending more than 3.5 billion euros in the expansion and modernization of our networks across Europe. In January 2020, this year, we issued a 1 billion euro green bond. This new initiative came on top of a similar one initiated in August 2019, when we issued another 1.5 billion green bonds. Their proceeds will be used to fund sustainable infrastructure and energy efficiency projects across Europe, such as grid connections, new grid connections of renewable energy production, grid replacements to increase flexibility in the system and efficiency supporting the energy transition, smart meters, integrated on-site and city energy solutions, and development and construction of electric vehicle charging stations related into infrastructure. Our success with these bonds issues underscores the financial market's eagerness to invest in sustainability and its trust in E.ON's initiatives. We are, of course, also closely monitoring the involvement of the European Commission and member states in developing sustainable financing mechanisms to support this kind of investments. We are eager to put at their disposal our entire knowledge and expertise and participate in shaping these initiatives. And we believe that the Green Deal will give us strong tailwind to push the energy transition and sustainability forward. I personally strongly support initiatives as the one we are part of today, creating platforms for discussions for relevant stakeholders, for opinion leaders and representatives of the energy market in a constructive common endeavor for identifying the right strategic, legislative and regulatory solutions to support the energy transition and increase the appetite for continuing development through investments. I wish you all a productive day, and I'm really looking forward to finding out the conclusions. Thank you very much and have a good day, all of you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And thank you for highlighting the need of investments and also the trust of the markets in serious projects, as you mentioned, the Green Bond Initiative. So having this in mind and also having in mind this 15 years of E.ON in Romania, 20 years of E.ON worldwide, how would you see E.ON at European level or even beyond in 15 or 20 years time?
15 or 20 years. Anka, you're asking me a question. Hey, look, this is what I'm always asking if I get a question with a time horizon longer than 10 years. Can you see this here? This is an iPhone. And this iPhone is younger, definitely younger than 15 years. And we all know how this device changed the world. And Anka, honestly speaking, if you had asked me 15 years ago how E.ON would look like today, I would have been completely wrong. So looking forward for 15 years is really a tough question. What I can definitely tell you, we will live in a much more decentralized way. Sustainability will still be really on the top of the political agenda. I see E.ON as one of the leading companies in Europe, really setting the standards in innovation and sustainability and customer friendliness in the next years to come. And I'm really looking forward to create this new energy world together with our customers, because this will be, from my perspective, maybe the biggest difference compared to the past. Our customers will extremely change the way how we will operate our businesses. And therefore, we should all listen very, very carefully to what our customers want. This is, from my perspective, really the key for a successful energy company that is still there in 15 years from now on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Thomas. And yeah.
Yeah, to all of you, I really, I'm so sorry, but I have a next meeting with more than 400 colleagues just on another line. So unfortunately, I have to leave now. So I wish you all really a very constructive day, full of new experiences, full of fruitful discussions. And I'm really looking forward, Anka, to call you back this evening and listen to what you've learned in this forum today. So thank you very much and bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you. Let me introduce you the second speaker of this morning, and it's my pleasure to introduce Manfred Pasch, who is our CEO. Manfred started his professional career in 1983, working for the auditing company KPMG. In 1994, he joined the energy company Pilsen Electra, which later merged into the E.ON group. After holding several executive positions, he was appointed as the CEO of E.ON Bulgaria. And in from 2008 until the end of 2017, Mr. Pasch was the CFO of the energy company Edis AG, one of the largest distribution system operators within Germany. In October 2019, Mr. Pasch moved to Bucharest and became the CEO of E.ON Romania. Manfred, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Anke. Thank you very much. Also, to introduce myself, and yeah, this is always the same. I think the interesting years are coming at last, and they started on October in Romania, and I'm quite happy to be there, to be in Romania. Yeah, dear members of the European and Romanian Parliament, dear representatives of the government and the regulatory authorities, dear colleagues, dear participants. It is really a big pleasure for me to welcome you to our forum that aims to highlight the importance of the digital transformation in the energy transition and to develop a platform of discussion on how we could identify smart solutions in the energy sector for the days, months, and years that will come. And Thomas also mentioned it, and beneath this very important topic of our conference, there's another issue to invite you, all being here with us online. This other issue is to celebrate with us the 15 years anniversary of E.ON in Romania, with this very interesting discussion with distinguished speakers. In 2005, E.ON bought Distrigas Nord and Electrica Moldova in a period of large foreign investments flows in Romania. 15 years have passed since. 15 years with major challenges, such as the 2008 financial crisis, and I think the much bigger crisis of the recent COVID-19 pandemic. But in this time, there were also important opportunities. For example, the EU access of Romania in 2007. 15 years in which Romania have changed, and we, as E.ON, have changed together with it. Romania looks very different today compared to 2005. Romania has sectors which are competitive at regional and global levels. Romania is integrated into international production chains and exports high quality of products. E.ON is also looking different today. We increase significantly our productivity. We are more digitalized and definitely more efficient. We believe that all of these achievements would have been impossible in the absence of the skilled labor force, capital, know-how, and technology that helped our company capitalize on its competitive advantages. During this period of time, we have invested 1.7 billion euro in modernizing our networks and processes. our health and safety equipments, and campaigns developing new products. Digitalizing our activity and training our employees. We have done all of these to show our long-term commitment to our customers and, of course, also our long-term commitment to this country, to Romania. We are responsible through our energy network company Delgas Grid for operating 82,000 kilometer length of power network and a 23,000 kilometer length of natural gas network, a virtual infrastructure covering the north part of Romania, which we are carefully monitoring. Covering both distribution and supply activities with more than 3.2 million customers, or to be more precise, with 3.2 million consumption points, and with 6,400 employees. We are considering an important player in the Romanian energy sector. Thus, during these years, we have continued to improve quality and safety standards through a major investment program, using technology and modern tools. Between 2005 and 2019, we paid more than 2.3 billion euro taxes to the state and local budgets, which make us a reliable partner of the state. These figures have been part of public investments in infrastructure, healthcare, education, and have multiplied in the economy at large. One of our main challenges was a transition from a traditional supplier of electricity and natural gas to a company orientated towards innovation and digitalization. We have made important steps in adapting our business to new solutions in order to cope with the recent new trends that we support and endorse. Thus, we have entered the e-mobility market. We have started to offer green energy packages, photovoltaic, energy efficiency projects, smart home packages, and many other things. As the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, highlighted, the European Green Deal is not only about emission, it is about boosting innovation, modern mobility, and improving the quality of citizens' life. This new growth strategy will create new business and will create new markets all across Europe. And we should be aware of the opportunities lying ahead of us. We are paying attention to the existing and new types of EU financing. The Modernization Fund, thus Just Transition Mechanism, EU funds, for E.ON, the digitalization of the electricity distribution system, and here I'm talking about smart grid, smart meters, SCADA systems. This is a way forward to approach in accessing EU funds. It is well known that the change requires continuous innovation and lately the use of smart technologies. Thus, we have increased our use of innovative digital solutions to monitor our networks, and we will continue our investments plan beyond the pandemic impact. Also, we are very proud that we developed the first smart village project in Romania. It started in 2018 in Frumușeni in Arad County. As of 2018, we have signed partnership with several municipalities in Romania. Thus, 20 localities will become smart villages in the following period. And beneath all this, we are still a reliable partner for the state. And the recent difficult period of the pandemic has proved it once again, because we protected our employees and we ensure the continuing access to safe and reliable utilities for communities, households, and business. And last but not least, I want to highlight also what Thomas said, meaning that we are really thankful for the outstanding commitment of our teams all around Romania and also all around Europe. They did a very good job by keeping running an infrastructure really virtual of all of us. They all our technicians, they are our heroes. And I would like to thank them for their work during such difficult times, during this really big pandemic. I wish us and you all the best. Looking forward to seeing the conclusion of the discussion. And of course, to all of you, take care, stay healthy. And thanks for joining our conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manfred. And allow me now to jump to our first panel, digitalization and innovation. The Green Deal era is transforming the energy world. So we are going to discuss with very important people for the energy sector how they see this challenge and how we are going to cope with all this. I just want to make one remark, and to quote here Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, who said, referring to the EU Green Deal, that this is Europe's man on the moon moment. So it's really a revolutionary way of thinking for all of us participants in this energy sector, in the overall economy. So we are thinking now how to bring a smart, sustainable, and green economic growth model. I will give the floor to Mr. Julian Stana. Mr. Stana is the State Secretary at the Ministry of Environment in Romania. And we are very happy to have Mr. Stana this morning with us. Mr. Stana has a profile of a scientist rather than a politician. And Mr. Stana has an impressive background in the biological and the environmental field, with 3 bachelor's degrees in economics, biology and environmental science, and a PhD in biological sciences. He was the director of the biology, ecology, and geography department at the West University in Arad, and is currently a lecturer at the same university. Also pro-dean at the Faculty of Medicine from West University in Arad. The Ministry of Environment is the Romanian institution responsible to coordinate the national strategy for implementing the Green Deal objectives at national level. Mr. Stana, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zanca. Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to congratulate E.ON for the 15 years of existence in Romania. And second of all, I want to thank you for the invitation to participate in this discussion. I believe this kind of debates are very useful, and I appreciate the initiative very, very much. I will speak a little bit about Green Deal. I have a background, academic background. I worked 15 years at the university, and my main concern was conserving biodiversity. But we all know that in the last period, we see the climate change and the environment degradation are existent threats to Europe and the world. The European Green Deal is a response to these threats. It is a new growth strategy that aims to transform European Union into a fair and prosperous society with a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy, where
we lost him, Anka.
We lost you. Can you hear us? Hello? I think we have a technical problem. Okay. So we were mentally prepared also for technical problems, but we hoped that it doesn't happen. As I say, it's like when you cannot find a parking place. This is how with e-conferences, when the internet is simply betraying us. So let's find a technical solution, a rapid one. We are not sure how severe is the technical problem Mr. Stana has, because we lost contact with him. So for the sake of your time, I would suggest to move to Mr. State Secretary Havrilets from the Ministry of Economy, Energy and the Business Environment. Mr. Havrilets is in charge of energy sector and energy policy at this very important ministry for the Romanian economy overall. And let me tell you a few words about Mr. Havrilets. He has 35 years of experience in the energy sector, working on both the public and private entities, and with significant knowledge in the energy field and an overview of the business. Mr. Havrilets became member of the advisory committee of the Energy Regulatory Authority between 2005 and 2012, and later on he was appointed as president of the authority in 2012. Mr. Havrilets is a member of Regulatory Authorities Council within the ACER, Agency for Cooperation of Energy Regulators, and a member of the General Assembly of the Council of the European Energy Regulators, and an advisor to the Ministry of Energy. Mr. Havrilets was decorated in 2000 with the Order of the Star of Romania Knight. So I see now we have Mr. Stana, but okay, so we move ahead with the intervention of Mr. Havrilets, and we go back to Mr. Stana's topic. So Mr. Havrilets, let's discuss a little bit about energy, digitization and digitalization, because this is really the way to move ahead with this new energy concept. Please.
Okay, many thanks, Anka, for your very kind presentation. I already ashamed by myself Okay, many thanks. And I want to send you congratulations for organization this topic, this forum. Also, I am sending best regards to Professor Jean-Michel Grandchamp, which I know him from many European meetings in the regulating area in energy. So I am pleased to attend this debate dedicated to a topic of such great interest, which is digitalization in the energy sector. I do hope that we will establish today a discussion platform that will be a valuable tool for all of us in the coming future. According to the latest developments at European level, the energy sector is undergoing the process of transition towards a decarbonized and long-term sustainable economy. There is a need for low carbon, economically viable and highly efficient technologies that will be able to provide the final consumers with smart energy solutions at reduced carbon emissions and costs. The digital transformation has the potential to support the development of economies and society, including as a tool to achieve climate neutrality by 2030, could help create jobs, support member states in identifying solutions to the many challenges they face, increase competitiveness and innovation. Digital technologies could benefit citizens and businesses in many useful ways. Digitization should be set high on our agenda. Digitization is already having an enormous impact on many sectors of the economy, and the effects are beginning to be visible in the energy sector as well. This means integrating new technologies, lowering production costs, improving the quality of distribution service, encouraging energy efficiency, and many, many more. At national level, digitization of the Romanian energy system will contribute to its safe operation by intensifying the efforts and improving the response capacity to cyber attacks or other dysfunctionalities of the system. By implementing digital technologies, customers will gain more control over energy consumption, will have the opportunity to become prosumers, but also to provide energy storage services. At EU level, digitization is one of the key priorities of the European Commission. This trend will be accelerated in the next context. Over the next 5 years, the Commission will focus on 3 main objectives in the Union digital transformation, namely technology for the benefit of users, a fair and competitive economy, and an open, democratic, and sustainable society. The pandemic crisis emphasized the importance of digital transformation at EU level, as well as the need to develop sectors such as e-health or e-government, e-education, in the context of isolation measures imposed by most member states. Moreover, as highlighted in the recovery plan proposed by the European Commission, support will be given to the reconstruction of economies affected by the pandemic on a sustainable basis, integrating the green and digital transition. As regards the energy sector in particular, the use of advanced information technology tools will allow significant benefits to the companies. Faster access to data and models, shortening the decision time, better management of response capacity, easier balancing of the system, real-time monitoring, and many others. Clean and smart solutions can be an effective way to decarbonize important sectors such as transport, industry, construction, and buildings. This will require modern, digitized and resilient electricity networks in the process of energy transition. Digitization through smart meters, including stimulating domestic production, electrification of heating, access to local renewable sources, charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, all these stand as strong examples. However, this transformation will certainly imply significant investment volumes on the entire technological chain. From energy production to smart transmission and distribution networks, as well as to a new market model based on efficient, clean, and flexible energy capacities and innovative technologies. These investments are essential to support the process of sector integration and energy transition. Public and private investments are needed in order to facilitate the energy transition, which is essential in all sectors. The same, the public and private investments should be tailored, taking into consideration the vulnerability, energy poverty, of the final consumers. Mobilizing private investment is essential to achieving the objectives of the Green Deal and its subsequent policies. At the same time, support is needed in order to link research and innovation activities in energy policies in interdisciplinary way. Therefore, I would like to underline here the role of the National Integrated Energy and Climate Plan, which sends a clear signal regarding the investment plans in the next period, as well as measures and actions taken in view of supporting and facilitating the transition process. We want a low carbon economy, a realistic transition to clean energy, beneficial not only for the environment, but also for the economy and consumers. However, we need to ensure compatibility between this transition process and the economic growth that we all desire. The transition to a low carbon economy aims to create a sustainable energy sector that stimulates growth, innovation, and job creation, and at the same time increase the quality of life, expands the range of products and services, and reduces consumer bills. We need to understand that the future belongs to clean energy, that we need to move towards less waste, climate-friendly decisions, a safer and cleaner world in terms of energy, and therefore, technology and innovation must be key factors in our future efforts. Thank you for your attention, and go ahead.
Thank you, and the very straightforward message. Thank you so much, Mr. State Secretary. Sorry, I cannot help myself. I have to ask you a question. We've been talking about a need of investments, about also we saw the European Commission recommendations for Romania, the need of investment, speed up investments in energy, in networks. Do you think that the current legal framework is stimulating investments in Romania, or do you see the need of some adjustments to make this process to boost up the process?
Yes, many things for 140, but nevertheless, there is plenty place to put in the legislation some specific provisions in order to support economical development and also in energy transformation policy. For sure, we need to put in legislation several initiatives in order to support economical behavior in Romania. Nevertheless, state importance is very important in this issue in order to propose balanced measures and stability, predictability of the legislation. Yes, I am very constant that this is a very important issue, that state has to be an actor that is assuring neutrality and positive measures. Every time there will be place to improve our legislation according with our everyday's activity to align our internal legislation to the European legislation. It's every time a sign that we want to have these changes, and we want to have a very good results in the economical, in the energetical sector. But that are very important, these kind of meetings that you are organizing, and to launch the new ideas for the general benefit in the energy sector. So finally, yes, we do need more new provision in the internal legislation in order to launch the real competitiveness in the energy market.
Yeah, thank you. And after following this forum, this conference, we'll have a position paper on smart solutions for tomorrow's grid. And we're going to tackle all these issues that are ensuring that we will end up in a better, in a greener world with a really smart grid. And we'll circulate this draft position paper with all of you, but we will get inspired from your speeches today. Thank you so much, Mr. State Secretary Havrilets, and allow me now to go back to Mr. State Secretary Iulian Stana. We apologize for this technical inconvenience.
Hello, sorry for the internet. I have an unstable internet connection, I see. As I was saying, that to deliver a European Green Deal, there is a need to rethink for the clean energy supply across the economy, industry, production and consumption, large-scale infrastructures, transport, food and agriculture, construction, and social benefits. To achieve these aims, it is essential to increase the value of the giving to protecting and restoring natural ecosystem, to a sustainable use of the resource and improving human health. The European Green Deal provides a roadmap with action to boost the efficiency use of the resource by moving to a cleaner, circular economy and stop climate change, revamp the biodiversity loss and cut pollution. It outlines investment needed and financing tools available, and explains how to ensure a just and inclusive transition. We all know that the Green Deal will guide us, will guide our working agenda for the coming years, because the environment ambition of the Green Deal will be not achieved by Europe acting alone. The drivers of climatic change and biodiversity loss are global and are not limited by national borders. As you already know, Romania supports the European Union objective of becoming climate neutral by 2050, but at the same time, we are aware of the significant social and economic costs associated with this transition. Green Deal has a synergic approach by addressing both climate change and environment degradation. So the environmental policies are integrated in all relevant sectoral policies. The first two sections of the Green Deal climate ambition and clean, affordable, and secure energy have the most significant contributions onto the greenhouse gas reductions. Regarding this climate ambition and climate law regulation, will establish the pathway for 2050 climate neutrality. In this framework, the 2030 milestone will be very important to debate among member states. We are expecting in the next period that the European Commission will propose a comprehensive plan to increase the ambition from 2030 target, reducing greenhouse gas emission from at least 30% to at least 50%, possibly even 55%. This plan will be based on the impact study that we are expecting to be a realistic analysis of the energy sector, which is the main generator of greenhouse gas emission, in particular to the coal combustion in Romania especially. If we discuss about the transport sector, the infrastructure challenges play a key role. Any European policy in this sector needs to address the issue of affordability. The price of the transport must be reflected the impact it has on the environment and on the health of the citizens of the Europe. The Union European should in parallel ramp up the production and development of sustainable alternative transport fuels. Transport should be more drastically less pollution, especially in the city, because we have a lot of cities in Europe that are very polluted, and we see already in some of our European cities there are regulations concerning the entrance of cars in the center of the city. For the residential sector, we noticed that the key role is reducing short-time emission by increasing efficiency of the buildings. This will lead to lower electricity and heat consumption with social benefits by lowering electricity and heat bills. If we are discussing about a lot of sectors that are emitting and polluting, one of the sectors that represent the most important way to achieve zero net emission throughout their ability to capture CO2 emission are the forests. And that's why we need to have a sustainable management for the forest in Romania. Actually, it is essential. And the main activity leading to emission in this sector are deforestation and wood burning. So we must think a lot of to how to manage the forest better, because we have a problem with the wood which is burned, and this wood is very used in the countryside. One of the solutions to this problem, there are projects that introduce natural gas in rural areas. This kind of project would have a beneficial effect on maintaining and increasing the carbon sink, as well as reducing air polluting from wood burning in the countryside. Actually, the Ministry of Environment supported and developed a program this year. The program is called Forest as Big as a Country, and in this program we will plant from 0 to 25,500 for new forests. Over 1,000 hectares of degraded land will be planted with new forest, and we will complete 7,000 young forests. And this will be very beneficial in the future for absorption of CO2 emission. We consider that the assessment of the national circumstances is a key element in establishing a path to achieving the objective of the Green Deals and those contained by the climate law. In Romania, it's possible, I don't think that it's possible, for sure we will have difficulties in financing the increase of the level of ambition, but in the same time, we find this ambition an opportunity to take advantage of the actively will advantage of the money that we can get from the European Union for the management of this social economic transformation. In this project, we need to find financial support for from public and private sources, as well as engagement of the citizens and businessmen and all relevant stakeholders. It is essential to maintain the comprehensive of our industry by proposing efficient mechanisms and reduce the risk of relocation of the people that are working in the sector that will be affected. As a member state, we need to identify the most efficient way for transforming our economies, and that will at the same time enjoy the support and attention of the citizens. In this content, citizens play a central role because we need to find opportunities for them, and we need to find programs and projects which will be funded by EU funds, also by national funds, to help them with the transformation of these vulnerable areas. Concerning some energy aspects, I would like to say that Romania is among the most it is among the states that have a long. I think that will have a long transition for the period for the energy sector. Transition for the period in the energy sector. We need time to replace the coal-based capacity with low-emission capacity, affordable costs for operators and consumers. In this case, we can say that gas is one of the main fuel which can be used for this transition. But we need to find that gas project need to be financially supported by EU budget, especially given that the European Investment Bank has a new leading policy that is more restrictive rather than geared towards small projects. We have a lot of reserve of gas, of natural gas in Black Sea. And I think that we must harness quickly this gas because the time horizon for natural gas to be used is very, very short, in line with the new European policy. Transmission and distribution of this new energy must be technically adapted to able to take up the renewable gas injection. It's very important because we need to have a gas which is it's less polluted than the one we have now. But we need to keep in mind that Romania, as a nuclear state, will also have to promote projects that use hydrogen resulting from the production of electricity from nuclear sources. One important aspect is the aspect of technical innovation. This aspect was also mentioned by Secretary of State Havrilet, because we need to invest in research and innovation if we want to have technical and economical feasibility, and if we want to have a technology that will be clean, that will be green technologies. In this, the Ministry of Environment supports some projects that conduct to lowering the greenhouse gas emission and air pollution. Among this project, I can mention a few. These projects are under Environment Fund Administration, which is an agency in the Ministry of Environment, Water and Forest, and some of this program are improving air quality and reducing greenhouse emission using less pollution vehicle in public passenger transport. Actually, we financing acquisition of electric buses and trolley buses for the local administration. We have program for changing LED lamps, changing LED lamps from the public illumination, because we know that when we will put LED lamps and remote management on this public lighting system, we'll have a lower consumption of energy rate. We have program on increasing efficiency in single-family buildings. We have a program for increasing energy efficiency in public buildings. We have developed some programs for increasing, for develop the recharging infrastructures for plugging hybrid electric vehicles on motorways, on European roads and national roads. We have a program that reducing greenhouse emission by afforestation of land. These all kind of programs are financed by Ministry of Environment, and this already show us that the Ministry of Environment is already trying to tackle the problem that are put on the table by the Green Deal. One of the most important things is that in this, if we want to do climate change in a positive way, we need to act to engage people as a consumer, as a citizen, because it is very important that they need to know and they need to be educated to use fewer resources, and we need to think that biodiversity is a very important, and the resources of our country are not will not grow back if we don't protect them. That I want to say. Of course, the discussion is can be very ample. We can discuss about the biodiversity. We can discuss about the ecosystem. We can discuss about all our resources, which must be protected in the next future. Because if we will have industry that will consume all our resources, what will be our future from then? Thank you very much.
State Secretary Stana, and yes, what's our future and what's the future of our children? Yes, we are responsible for everybody. I have a very short question for you regarding the targets settled for Romania within the Green Deal package and the National Integrated Plan. Are these targets firm for? Or you're still under negotiations with the EU institutions?
The question is if it is for the money which we will receive from the EU, or the target from which we want to assume in Romania, because it is very hard for us to assume some targets, because we did not finish all impact studies in all areas. We as a Minister of Environment have we will regulate some aspects, but the targets must be in every sector, must be assumed a target, because we as an environmental agency, we cannot know what the energy sector will do. We cannot know what agriculture sector can do, and that's why these targets must be assumed by them. And after that, we have a discussion. Actually, we already have some meetings with all the ministry involved in this Green Deal, but we are still working to the Romanian position with concerning Green Deal and the negotiation with which will be done by the European Union. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Allow me to welcome Mr. Cristian Bușoi, who had the privilege to fly this morning. Not many people had this privilege, Mr. Bușoi. And Mr. Bușoi is the chairman of ITRE Commission of the European Parliament. And Mr. Bușoi graduated from the Faculty of Medicine of the Carol Davila University in Bucharest, the National Defense College, and the University Law School Titu Maiorescu in Bucharest. Also, Mr. Cristian Bușoi has a PhD in Public Health and Health Management at the University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Timișoara. Mr. Bușoi held important positions within the European and Romanian authorities. He was a member of the European Parliament, a member of the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, the committee he's heading today. Also, he was a substitute for the Committee on the Internal Market and Consumer Protection, IMCO, and for the Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food and Safety, ENVI, but also a president of the Romanian National Health Insurance Agency. So, Mr. Bușoi, thank you again for joining us today. Was the flight okay? We are missing flying.
Don't miss, yes, the flight was okay, but the sentiment was strange, not only Bucharest airport, but also in Brussels airport. Last time I saw the airport after the terrorist attacks some years ago, just a few days after, but now it's really empty and no flights. So yes, I'm in the European Parliament, first time since beginning of March. I remember that my last meeting in my office here was with the German presidency, and yesterday we had a video conference with German presidency. We have great expectations from this presidency, and as ITRE chair, as ITRE president, we have many common issues to work, most of them related to the budget for the next 7 years. I'm very happy to join your webinar, your event. Congratulations for the initiative. I will not be able to stay until the end because in parallel it's ITRE committee, even that I asked one of my vice presidents to chair the meeting. I would like to go in the second part of the meeting just to say hello to the colleagues and take the leadership. But I think the discussion today is extremely important, and we have to look a little bit closely to what is happening at the European level, but also in Romania. Energy is one of the key priorities in Brussels, in EU institutions, and I believe and I feel that the current crisis has brought changes to the EU energy landscape and outlook, but some of these changes could be positive. The crisis also brought a boosted budget and opportunities to speed up the work and the transition to the climate neutrality by 2050. And the recovery plan for our next generation is by far the biggest and ambitious EU put at stake. Green Deal remains even after the COVID crisis. And of course, even that we understand, all of us, that we'll have to deal with the economic crisis, Green Deal will remain and was reinforced politically as a very important goal for the next years and next decades. Of course, Green Deal is first response to our environment issues, but of course could be a response also to the energy security dimension, to decrease the dependency on imports, and of course to make European Union even more competitive at the international level with new technologies. But more than ever today, after the medical crisis and before the economic crisis, we should ensure consistency across policies, streamline Green Deal ambitions, but look to feasible solutions, look to a feasible transition, ensuring further the resilience of the energy system, also while keeping affordable costs, because this is also extremely important for our industry and also for EU citizens. The proposed recovery plan that you know well, and the reconstruction package will support also member states to embrace low carbon future inside European Green Deal strategy. How to achieve this goal, what avenues to choose, what mechanisms to use is far from simple, but I also believe that could be, if we are balanced, if we are smart, and if we find the best solutions, it could be a unique opportunity to accelerate energy transition. We welcomed the revised proposal of multi-annual financial framework. We also welcome the increase of the budget for just transition mechanism, which in particular is extremely important also for Romania. As I said, and this is also a position of my political group, which is the largest group in the European Parliament, the European People's Party, the transformation of our energy sector and the transition towards green and digital needs to be balanced, needs to be feasible for all our regions and also for our industrial sectors. No regions should be left behind, and in particular those reliant on coal. And of course, it should be based on extremely solid impact assessment in order to be sure that everything that we are doing for the energy transition would be sustainable and also will be in the benefit of the industry, will keep and even increase number of jobs and also keep the prices affordable for consumers. We are looking forward in the next weeks and months to different initiatives from European Commission in the field of energy. This month, the Commission will present a strategy on energy system integration. I see that also you will discuss on smart grids. Also, we'll focus on more circular energy system, greater direct electrification and end-use sectors, and increased use of renewables and decarbonized fuels, including hydrogen. We have also expectation for this strategy on energy system integration, because this could represent a fundamental factor for achieving Europe's CO2 reduction targets and increase our global competitiveness. We will look also very close in the future for on hydrogen, also other clean technologies. There is a plan of European Commission to enhance cross-border market access for renewables, open new markets for storage systems and also hydrogen, and allow greater amounts of renewables in the energy mix. Coming back to hydrogen, the Commission will present soon a separate communication on building a hydrogen economy in the European Union, where it cannot be entirely used near the place of production. We do evaluate the option to let the flow of hydrogen across the EU through the existing pipelines, which also means investment in modernizing them. We need to invest also into other transportation means, as well as well-established regulatory framework supporting the uptake of renewable hydrogen. At the end of this year, in Q4, we'll await the legislative proposal to review the 10E guidelines. It will be an extremely important legislation. Here, I expect a lot of tense and sometimes very emotional political debates. I hope the rationality will win, and finally we'll find a balance, because I believe that we should keep a balance between investments in gas, which will remain and should remain at least the transition fuel, but of course with the innovation and the decarbonization of gas could remain also even after 2050, and the increase of renewables and also the accommodation of renewables in the new PCI list projects, next PCI list projects after the revision of the 10E guidelines. For Romania, of course, there are many opportunities, but also a lot of challenges. We have increased in the past years the share of renewables. We also have a good mix, also due to hydro production of energy. But of course, we have a lot of challenges in the area of coal, and we have to find sustainable solutions. We have opportunity for finding money for investments. There is a long and old discussion about the need to invest in a Romanian energy system. Private investments are welcomed, but let's see with the current crisis. So European money and also other kind of loans backed by European schemes could be extremely important. And we have the next MFF, we have the recovery plan, we have the Just Transition Fund. Everywhere in these initiatives, we could find good opportunities. We have just to be bold, smart, balanced, and to know our interest. And this is also a good opportunity today to define better our interest and our opportunities for the future. Once again, congratulations and happy honored to join your event today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your very comprehensive and clear presentation. Basically, you answered all my questions. You exhausted my questions. I wanted to ask you about the PCIs. We are looking with great interest to PCIs, about the calendar, about the transition fuel, the financing. I would simply say that when you go back to the committee now, to the Commission, just send the message that the private sector is interested in the new orientation, this Green Deal, and we are your partners. Thank you so much.
I already passed this message when we met Executive First Vice President Timmermans, also in our continuous and constant dialogue with Commissioner Kadri Simpson. So industry should be a partner. We should take into account the needs and the signals. Of course, the decision is political and should take into account what citizens would like to see. But without a genuine partnership with the industry, this transition and this transformation could not happen. Now we are discussing about research today, which is also important for energy. But we have the dialogue with Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Of course, I expect that my colleagues will focus on COVID and the new vaccines. Everybody's waiting. I'm sure that also your industry, because when we have the vaccines, the life will be easier and the economy will recover easier. But innovation and research in energy would be also extremely important. So this is another issue that we should look closely in Romania and EU level. And once again, thank you for your kind words, Madam Dragu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me turn now to another very dear guest, Mr. Bogdan Chirițoiu. He is a board member of the Agency for the Cooperation of Energy Regulators and also is the president of the Romanian Competition Authority. And the Romanian Competition Authority, I may tell you that this is one of the best institutions Romania has. Very high professional standards and very objective institution. Mr. Chirițoiu studied medicine, so we have another physician today at the Carol Davila University in Bucharest. He has a master's degree in political science at Central European University in Budapest and in European studies at the London School of Economics and Political Science. He also held a PhD in international relations at the Bucharest University of Economic Studies. Mr. Chirițoiu has had an important teaching career, and in parallel, he worked as public affairs at Merck from New Jersey, USA, advisor to the Minister of Justice, to the President, consultant to the Romanian government for European integration at the European Institute, and consultant to the delegation of the European Commission. Mr. Chirițoiu, please, this stage is yours now.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And any questions now, or do you want to wait till the end, which I promise won't be long?
After.
After, yeah, okay. Again, thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be part of this panel. I imagine I'm going to be the optimist in the panel. Actually, this is a very optimistic panel. The only words of caution so far seem to me those of Mr. Bushoi, who have the more balanced optimism, let's say. And I think I'm more or less on the same page. I was preparing what I expected, to be honest. I thought that many people will doubt the direction we're going through. We are coming from a medical crisis, but this medical crisis is going to lead to probably a very serious economic crisis. And I imagine many people will say it's time to reassess if not the direction, at least the speed with which we are going. And what I was preparing to say to these doubters, of which there are none in the panel, so far at least, is that I think the crisis might make us delay some of the things that have been planned, but I think overall it's unavoidable that we are going towards Green Deal. We're talking a lot about the Green Deal, the energy transition, or whatever you want to call it, but this is coupled in my mind with the liberalization of the energy market and the creation of the European energy market. And that's something we talk less about. Yeah? We talk very much about renewables and less of the fact that these renewables are going hand in hand with integrating energy and liberalizing energy markets in Europe. And at least for Romania, why I think it's important for Romania is because we are a bit of we're not a laggard in terms of policy, but at least in the discourse and sometimes mentality, we cling to the past a bit longer than we should. And my point is that whether we like it or not, we should embrace the future because it's coming. Okay, try to minimize the downsides, use European funds, whatever, but accept that some industries, but again, energy, some things are not going to be the same, and we should not cling too much, and we should prepare to use the opportunities of the future. Coming from a competition authority, of course, we are somehow programmed, engineered to be pro-liberalization, yeah, to believe in efficiency of markets. Here I'm very much on the page with Dr. Koenig. I think the energy sector is ripe for change, and it's full of inefficiencies that could be improved through more competition, more integration that market competition will bring. From, let's say, just a couple of examples, minor issues. And I think I talked to you before. I never understand why I need so many people to come and read the meter in my house. Yeah, why can't just one guy read all the meters that have to be read? Till we go to the smart meters that could send the information by themselves, or to, let's say, the more serious thing of self-sufficiency. In my talking to people from the energy, I think the energy sector, they are brought up on the idea that a country, in order to be independent, relies in energy independence, and this means self-sufficiency. It means you should be able to produce everything that you need and cover the peak demand whenever that comes. And I think what European energy policy is trying to teach us and to push us is to realize that national independence in energy comes from having security of supply, from being able, whenever you have needs, to be able to accommodate those needs from, including from trading with your neighbors. And there's nothing wrong with this, and actually you could realize that you are both secure, and also you could provide the security much cheaper than trying to be able to accommodate whatever peak demand. Since I believe that liberalization of the market it's coming and it's going to be very helpful. Also, of course, I see a strong role for competition authorities supporting the role of the lead agencies, which are the ministry that spoke before, and national energy regulator, which is represented here by Mr. Nog. So we've been and we are here to support this transition to a market-based approach. You also mentioned the European Agency for Energy. It's a relatively new kid in the EU institutional framework. I'm very proud that I joined the board recently, and I'll do my best to, of course, to assure a smooth functioning of the agency. We'll put a lot of energy in making the market monitoring work better. Yeah, so REMIT, I think, is very useful to provide18information both to agency and to the other regulatory agencies, including competition authorities. Acer will also help and make sure that all the projects of interconnections of the different distribution transport networks are going to be put in place. So we do have an integrated energy market. And not the least, I would like the agency to facilitate cooperation, because this is like facilitate cooperation between national regulators and spread of good practices. That's something I've seen done in the competition world, which has the advantage of starting this cooperation between agencies many years before the energy regulatory agencies. And I think that's a lot of scope of learning one from another. And I'm now approaching the end. State aid, which was also mentioned. All this transition will require, new technologies will require some support from the state. We have to make sure, here again, I join Mrs. Bushoy, we have to make sure that we do not spend too much. So we give the support that is needed for these new technologies, but we should allow the market, we should be as much as possible market-based, yeah, and have the least amount of distortion possible. Romania, I guess in Romania we should learn the good and from the good things and the not so good things that we've done in the past. I think we've been pretty successful in developing the renewable energy sector in Romania. We have a pretty large share of renewable in our energy generation. On the other hand, could we have done it cheaper? I suppose we could have done it cheaper. I think at some moment we were too generous in the support we provided to the industry, and we should learn from this in the next wave, now that our support scheme is petering out and we're preparing new support mechanisms for the transition, for the renewables. And not the least, I think one of the biggest failures to me was the fact that we put a lot of money into the renewable sector, and again, it's very successful, large scale. We haven't coupled it with any meaningful industrial policy. We haven't been able to attract any manufacturing in Romania, or almost no manufacturing capacity in Romania for renewables. Yeah? And again, I think that's one of the most important lessons that we should learn for the next phase. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chirițoiu. While Mr. Bushoy answered my quick chat, my questions, you actually raised many questions, but I'll just pick up on your last comment on the manufacturing capacity for renewables and the state aid policy. So how quickly do you think this legislation should adapt, and how quickly we would see an important player in Romania in manufacturing capacity for renewables?
Well, legislation, that's something we deal more with, and here I think we are going to follow on the renewables. We are going to follow the lead of the Commission. So we have to see all the mechanisms put in place. But Romania is looking now at contracts for difference, for example. We are preparing some new generation support scheme for cogeneration. So okay, there are some things going in place, but I think we're going to wait for the lead of the Commission. My view is we should be fast followers. Yeah? I don't think Romania should necessarily be the innovator, because if you are the first who might make costly mistakes, I think in our stage we should quickly imitate, copy things that work fine. On attracting investments, we have a lot of instruments which I think work fine for attracting investments in general in Romania. Now like everybody else, we expect some reshoring of production capacities towards Europe. And I'm confident that some companies will find Romania a hospital place. But I think you as the former Minister of Finance and your colleague Mrs. Stan as the former Director for State Aid have a better clue than me of exactly how you deal with the foreign investments.
Thank you. My colleague Livia, yes, is very happy with your answer. Thank you so much, Mr. Kinsalo. And we'll continue discussing these topics in the coming days. And I think, yeah, this platform launch today will continue. And let me now present you our next speaker. And I'm talking about Mrs. Paola Bressetti. Hi, Paola. And so we also invited Mani with us. Paola works for the EIB, and she's a managerial advisor, electricity networks at the European Investment Bank. Ms. Bressetti has been working with the EIB for more than 12 years and has a vast experience in the network and infrastructure activities, with focus on the power sector. Previously, she worked as head of Network Studies Division and Director Network Infrastructure Department at the Centro Elettrotecnico Sperimentale Italiano. She has a Master of Science degree from Università di Pavia. The EIB will be the main institution partner of the European Commission in financing the action plan for reaching the Green Deal objectives. Therefore, Mrs. Bressetti's wealth of energy transition knowledge is a very important point for our discussion today. Mrs. Bressetti, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Anka. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you everybody for inviting me to this webinar. So from the presentation from Anka, you understand that I am actually an electricity network expert. So basically the focus of my intervention will be on smart electricity grids and active grid management in particular, seen from an overall EU perspective without a specific focus on Romania. So it will be a general presentation. So we all are aware that meeting the Green Deal objectives and the twinned temperature objectives of the Paris Agreement will require transforming the energy systems across the EU and the world, and doing this rapidly. This profound challenge requires significant, sustained, and investments in new energy infrastructures over the coming decades. The EIB, European Investment Bank, the EU Bank, is the world's largest multilateral financier of climate action, can support in fostering these investments. This includes supporting innovation in low carbon technologies, both to reduce the cost of the transition as well as increase the global competitiveness of the European industry. Moving to more specifically to the electricity grid sector, within the EU there is a consensus, general consensus on the role of the electricity grid as enabler of the energy transformation. In line with its conventional role, the electricity grid will continue to connect renewable sources throughout the power system. However, the challenge ahead for the electricity grid is to minimize the incremental grid costs stemming from the expected wider use of electricity across the economy. For instance, due to the shift to electricity for personal transport and home heating, and from the need to integrate small-scale decentralized generators and storage. Smart grid electricity, and in particular active grid management, is regarded as one possible solution to this challenge. Over the past years, EIB lending to transmission and distribution electricity networks within the EU has been on average 3.5 billion euro per year, corresponding to about 30% of the total EIB lending to the energy sector. Lending was mostly allocated to grid investment, pursuing the conventional yet very important grid tasks of connecting generation, supplying demand, improving, maintaining reliability of supply, and reducing congestion. Part of these investments, particularly in the transmission sector, contributed to the integration of renewable energies. However, based on the portfolio that we have are currently managing, we see that the active grid concept per se, that has been discussed in the industry for over a decade, did not take off fully so far, and somehow appears locked into an everlasting demonstration phase. There were clearly multiple reasons for that. Three main reasons that come to my mind are the absence of a proper market design and regulation to support this shift to active grid management, still limited penetration of electricity for personal transport and home heating that were not yet cost competitive, and also a certain inertia in the industry given the preference of grids company for RAB-intensive investment rather than smart investments. Whatever the causes were, in the meantime, network tariffs for EU households, consumers have increased remarkably, so nearly 40% over the last decade. For the future, the new market design is expected, hopefully, to address the above shortcomings. The new electricity market directive that came into force at the end of last year addresses concepts such as active participation of consumers, demand response, energy communities, dynamic pricing, cost-efficient integration of distributed generation, avoided of costly network expansion, and use of flexibility. So national regulators are expected to adapt and set the right incentives for the deployment of active grids. For instance, via a tariff based on a blend of the traditional return on CapEx and OpEx for procuring flexibility services from system users. This probably will be the focus of the discussion in this afternoon. In addition, for the future, I must say that the benefits of active grid approach are likely to increase as electric vehicles, heat pumps and storage become more competitive and increase their penetration. Utilities, I think that utilities are very well aware that this type of grassroots initiative from households may run very fast, particularly in a COVID and post-COVID scenario, where private homes became the center of the professional and private life for many of us. So my view is that the changes triggered by this by the pandemic can have a strong acceleration effect in terms of energy decentralization, because our life will be more decentralized, and this might also have an impact on decentralizing the energy system. Okay, so in line with this, my main conclusion and let's say recommendation is to intensify efforts for accelerating the deployment of active grid management, whose investment will be in principle eligible for EIB financing under the climate action label. That's it. It was very short, very focused on electricity grids.
Thank you so much, and indeed very clear and focused presentation. Thank you so much. I have a question that crossed my mind while listening to you, and you mentioned this CapEx recovery through the tariff, and then also the OpEx recovery. And yes, this is very important part of our business, and this is the way to incentivize private companies to invest. And actually, there's no such thing that money would follow something else than money. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Clearly, I think
of the authorities to create the right incentives. But I'd have a specific question. Is EIB in discussions with governments, with regulators, in order to tackle such bottlenecks that may prevent this very straightforward approach?
No, actually, no. We are not engaged in this dialogue with the regulators and companies. But we clearly, when we are approached by distribution system operators for an operation, we highlight that we would like to include in our financing all these activities. So far, what we managed to do is just to include some demonstration projects in our financing, and although actually recently there have been some operations addressing more specifically demand response, and so I think I would tend to say that towards the end of 2019, I had the impression that things are starting moving, but still the point is that there is no regulatory framework in place that can really unlock this potential, and so probably we still need a bit of time to see really companies proposing as a large-scale deployment of active grid solutions.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you so much. And now it's just a very fluent transition to our next speaker, also a very dear friend and very important voice in the energy sector in Romania, Mr. Zoltan Nog, who is the Vice President of ANRE, which is the Energy Regulatory Agency. Mr. Nog has more than 10 years experience working on energy regulatory activities. Since October 2017, Mr. Nog was appointed as ANRE Vice President for a 5-year term, and hope that you continue there. Prior to being appointed as the Vice President of ANRE, Mr. Zoltan Nogia has had an important management experience both in private and public entities. Mr. Nogi graduated the Economic Sciences and Management from Cluj-Napoca, Babeș-Bolyai University, and took part in several training programs in management. In the context of the national and European energy targets, Mr. Zoltan Nogi has carried out an important role on the implementation of the current energy legislation and also elaborating the secondary regulation. So he has a very important role, especially in creating the right incentives for industry, for investment, but while protecting the consumer. Mr. Nog, please, we're listening to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation. And I would like to start with congratulating you for this webinar and for the past 15 years in Romania. And I would like to congratulate as well for the theme the subject you choose for this webinar, the digitalization, innovation, and smart grid. I think the timing to discuss this subject is just perfect. And not just because we're just in the middle of a crisis and we need new solutions in these new times, but there's a need to act fast to combat climate change as urgent as possible. And the subject must be addressed on every level and on every aspect. It has to be a clear goal and one towards which policymakers and businesses are focusing their continuous efforts. Decarbonization, which is basically the final target, through digitalization and innovation is a great opportunity to modernize our economy, to revitalize the industrial sector in a sustainable way, and ultimately generating lasting growth. I think in this way towards the decarbonization, it's fundamental that even the energy transition to be understood by everyone as a benefit, and not a change that will be beneficial to some part of the industry or the actors on the market and detrimental for others. And to achieve this, of course, we need to elaborate policies, and it's obvious that only very wide-ranging measures that combine the advantages for climate, for energy, for the industry, and for the society as well can achieve this result. And on this path, Europe has already shown its leadership in designing the energy and climate policies. And the most recent set of policies are the Clean Energy Package, which sets for 2030 a 40% reduction of 40% target of reduction of greenhouse gases compared with the 1990 levels. 32% share of renewables in the European Union's final gross consumption, and in terms of energy efficiency, the target is 32.5%. Obviously, we need to have ambition in designing the energy and climate policies to ensure that the transition to a carbon-free economy is truly sustainable. It's inclusive and will bring benefits to the Romanian energy system. Analyzing the latest changes which are taking place, we need a clear vision in order to define a roadmap of both measures and a robust economic model for estimating the socio-economic impact that can facilitate the clean transition. And regarding the smart grids, many mature technologies are currently available, ready to support the energy transition, but the most critical aspect of this process is finding a proper way to actively finance and support the investment efforts which are needed in the years to come. And in this matter, hopefully, the new regulated rate of return approved recently by the Romanian regulator will stimulate investments in grids, both on electricity and natural gas, and will create a proper and a stable investment environment for E.ON and any other utility company which are present in and active on the Romanian energy market. And hopefully they will continue their investments in Romania. An important step was already made by the deployment of large-scale smart electricity metering systems in Romania. The implementation of smart electricity metering system has been initiated, and it's ongoing in compliance with the law for electricity and natural gas. The implemented SMI system can provide accurate data for billing based on actual consumption, as the transmission of records from meters to the central system of data collection and the management is done daily. According to the data provided to ANRE by the DSOs, at the end of 2019, there were 1.1 million consumers integrated in the smart metering systems, representing about 12% of the total numbers of Romanian electricity consumers. Moving forward, the regulation states that the prosumers connected to the electricity grids are entitled to own a smart meter device to actively get data about their energy consumption. And I'm convinced that they will have an important role in the future, at least in the next couple of years, in the green investments. Another step made by ANRE recently was the change we made regarding the balancing market rules. Those were just in compliance with the new market, which was designed through the directive mentioned by Mrs. Presesti, and of course the regulation, which is already applied from the 1st of January this year. So we basically prepared for next year the new balancing rules on the balancing market, and some of those rules will enter into force already from 1st of September 2020, others from 1st of January. And we will have those new rules on the balancing market, such as the single price rule or the 15 minutes balancing period. And with all these changes, we will create a real possibility for aggregators, both for production and consumption, virtual power plant operator or storage operators to act more actively on the balancing market. And we would like to attract as well the consumers through the demand side response, because they will have an important role in the market in the future. The biggest barriers and challenges against having a greener future based on a significant share of renewable energy and smart grid technology could be the high costs, the lack of proper financing, and maybe stable policies, not enough experience with the new technologies, resilience of people adopting and implementing new ways of dealing with challenges. But I think we have some ways to overcome or to mitigate those challenges, and we can go forward with these goals. However, the growing role of digitalization in our economies will lead to a new set of challenges that must be carefully addressed. The rising share of intermittent renewables, such as photovoltaic power plants or wind power plants, will require power systems to make flexibility the cornerstone of future electricity markets. This will definitely require crafting the right policies and regulation, and close cooperation between the private sector and the policymakers in order to develop the required market reforms, to stimulate renewables and grid investments, to ensure security and scale up the deployment of demand-side response technologies. We, as the Romanian Energy Regulatory Authority, we are open to discuss any proposal regarding possible changes of the regulatory framework in order to facilitate the flexibilization and the digitalization of the electricity networks and the electricity systems. And any suggestion or recommendation or even critics, if they are constructive, are very welcome. And in the end, I would like just once again congratulate you for these 15 years in Romania, and I wish you many more, maybe with the ambition to expand your local interest in and invest continually in Romania. Our role, the regulatory's role, and our goal is to provide transparent, predictable, and a stable regulatory background, and we will try to do so, that you never consider leaving Romania. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. Your messages were very sharp and clear. Yeah, we should look together at the ways to stimulate the use of European funds by the DSOs. And what I have noticed with my colleagues that the DSOs in Romania have used such funds, the grants actually, at somehow lower level despite a wide variety and of instruments and programs, and despite the need. What would you think it's would be possible explanations for this low interest in the EU funds?
I don't think the reasons has to be definitely in the regulations or in the willing of the companies. I think generally in Romania it's a problem which we have to face, the use of EU grants at the level at the possibilities they are offering. If I could have some suggestions regarding that, I think what should be addressed by the utility companies in Romania, and I'm referring to electricity and natural gas as well, you should try to address the future somehow, digitalization, both for electricity and natural gas. And I think it would be relevant and it would be important for the regulator as well to try to use some grants for some pilot projects maybe, and together to have some conclusions based on those pilot projects and to shape the future regulation based on those pilot projects, which definitely I'm convinced that could be financed through EU grants. And of course you could use EU grants for education and intensivizing the consumers to accept the new technologies. You could use for reskilling and upskilling your own people. So I'm not an expert in EU funds, but these are my thoughts about EU funds and how could you use not definitely directly in the grid, but in your benefit and in the system's benefit in the future.
And the benefit of the consumers, yes. Thank you so much. That's exactly what we are concentrating on, and we are looking carefully at the new financial exercise and the new possible schemes, but also, yes, we are looking into the training programs and education. Thank you so much, and we'll continue discussing, of course, with you and your colleagues about these topics. Dear guests, this is now the end of the first panel. I think we heard many interesting opinions about the energy challenges, not only in Romania, but at the European level. We've been talking about the need of the new growth model to be sustainable, to be green, to be smart, and energy sector is an important part of the energy system, of the economic ecosystem, is the one that should really lead this the smart revolution. Digitization and digitalization, and as was mentioned in this panel, are very important for us. We need to find the right projects, the financing via European funds or by working with EIB, who is the most reputable project leader in this field. Also, what we learned this morning in this very intense 2 hours is that in the years ahead, on short term and also on medium term, our agenda is full of new rules and regulations that would shape the future of the energy sector towards zero carbon economy in medium and long term. Let me now move to the second panel, and I am very honored to introduce also the moderator of the second panel, who is Professor Jean-Michel Glachon. Mr. Glachon, Professor Glachon, is the director of the Florence School of Regulation. Mr. Glachon has a PhD in economics at the Sorbonne in France. He worked in the industry and private sector before becoming professor in La Sorbonne. He has been advisor of important DGs in the European Commission, DG Trend, DG Comp, DG Research, and of the French Energy Regulatory Commission, CRE. He has been a coordinator and a scientific advisor of several European research projects. Professor Glachon has been editor-in-chief of the Economics of Energy and Environmental Policy Journal, and he is the vice president of the International Association for Energy Economics. Professor Glachon, je vous en prie, the floor is yours now, and good luck with this second session.
Many thanks, Anka. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be invited by E.ON, a leading European company, and a pleasure to meet Romanians and to enter Romania even virtually. As many French, I'm spontaneously feeling friend with Romania and Romanians. The doctor of my first kid was from Romania. He was born in Sibiu in 1917. Yeah, 1917, my God. And I visited your country for the first time in 1979. And even today, my own deputy for training and for relations with company is from Romania, Mara Radulescu. And on the top, she's a former employee at E.ON. So I'm feeling at home. We will have to speed up a little bit in this session because unfortunately, I have to leave you at the foreseen end, which was 1:15 in Romania and 12:15 in Western Europe. So I will simplify my introduction. I will not use any slide. I will simplify also the presentation of the speakers, and I will use my phone, the same smartphone like Mr. Koenig in the former session. I will use my phone to ring at 6 minutes, and then I will tell to each speaker, sorry, but you have to conclude. And we should be able to make it, and we should be able to have a little bit of time maybe to discuss. Let's go with me, up with me. So for me, I do agree with many speakers, and particularly the one for IEB, but also Mr. Bouchoy. Digital distribution grids are facing a fantastic revolution because their role, their usefulness for the society will decouple. First, they were only grids, so they were pipelines to feed consumption for the energy consumers, and they are becoming interaction platform. On distribution grids, we have the generation with PV panel and windmills. We have consumption. We have new intermediaries like aggregators, like storage. All these people need to have direct interactions within the distribution grid. So it's not only a grid, it's becoming a platform. And of course, to become a platform, and Mr. Koenig said at the early introduction, many things have to be adapted, and also the communication tools, the softwares, etc. And the grid has to be reviewed, and many investment and improvement has to be made. But second, even, I will say, even as a grid, many things have to change because users of the grid may invest. They may invest in different types of assets with different operational potential, and they do it looking at what the grid does, looking at how the grid invests, and also how the grid is designing the tariffs of usage. So now it is interactive between investment of the grid, operation of the grid, investment of the users, operation of the users. And then these both aspects, an interaction platform and an interactive world of investments and operation behavior, require many, many changes, particularly from the regulatory side on the top of the distribution grid. That's the way I see it. I think that the COVID-19 crisis is terrible for the society in general and for the economy in general, but does not change these trends. It will only speed it up a little bit because we have seen how good digital is to face disasters. And climate change also can be a disaster. So we will keep on the same path. We will simply accelerate a little bit. That's the way I see it. However, I am an academic. I can say anything I want because it has no consequences except to take you time. So I will stop. We will go to the speakers. We are lucky because we have many speakers and they are very good, you will see. I will simplify their bio. We will start with Mr. Johan Mernstam. He is Senior Vice President, Energy Network Europe at E.ON, and he will speak about challenges and opportunities of investments for E.ON. Johan, you have the floor, and at 6, I will tell you 1 minute. Go on. Johan, you have to activate your microphone. Maybe Alina can help you. You have to activate your microphone.
I have done it now. Yeah, thank you.
Go,
and I will actually also take up the challenge to also do my session without any slides. And thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I would also say that it's impressive how many good speakers there have been so far. So basically, I would just like to talk about smart investments in the grid. And I think that we have to recognize that the existing networks originally played a very important role, in particular to provide energy, electricity to industries and people in the past. But the system was also designed in a completely different way, with large production and units which transported energy towards the customers. Now we see a completely different development with new technology like photovoltaic, e-mobility, and also digitization, and actually also new business models. So I think that what today is a monopoly, there will probably be parts that potentially can be also challenged by the new technology and new business models for competition. But those are very important factors that I believe will accelerate and drive the energy transition forward with an increased pace. And the development means, and you touched upon this, that we will see more connections to the grid, both on the consumption side, but also on the generation side. And I think that it's clear that the complexity in this energy system will increase significantly, but also the opportunities, of course. And I also believe that we will see more of convergence between the energy carriers. So it's not only obvious that we are talking about the electricity systems. I think we are talking in the future also of convergence between power, gas, and heating systems. For that reason, I believe that the energy networks will be one of the absolutely most important enablers for the energy transition going forward. So what are the challenges? As a DSO, we see that there will be more decentralized renewable generation connected mainly to the rural areas. And on the other hand, we see industries that will go more electric. They will convert their fossil fuel based appliances to electricity. There will be more electric cars, increasing both consumption and load. And there will, of course, be more active customers with own production, so-called prosumers. So the energy transition is moving forward in a rapid pace. And I think, as I said before, the complexity with more volatility, with more connected devices, more load will be a significant challenge. However, talking then about opportunities, using the new technologies, i.e. the smart grids, will be a possibility to manage the situation and actually to make sure that then the energy network will be the enabler that I was speaking about. Smart grid will help us to solve the challenges as a DSO in an intelligent way. That means that we can, of course, and need, of course, to continue to do investments in traditional technology, but we also need to make sure that we utilize the new technology in a way that we can release flexibility in the system and then really use the grid in a more efficient way. For that reason, I believe that we need to digitize the grid. And what do I mean by digitizing the grid? I mean that digitizing the grid means that we will be able to create the transparency and the possibility to also steer and control the grid down to low voltage level. Via smart meters, that will be an enabler that will enable us to basically have a low voltage SCADA, which will enable us to manage the system in a more efficient way. And as a DSO, we also need to utilize the flexibility. You were talking about the platform, and I believe that we need to make sure that there is a platform to optimize the load, both on the consumption side and on the generation side. In Sweden, for example, we last year launched a platform where participants can bid in their flexibility to manage local congestions. We manage that within a regulatory sandbox, but I believe that that is a part of the future. Electric cars can also play a very important role in terms of steering the charging, but also to provide flexibility from the batteries. So the tools and the technology is definitely there to enable us to manage the grid in a more efficient way in the future. And I believe that the grid will be more like the Internet of Energy, with more connected devices that together can play an important role, as I said, to utilize the grid in an efficient way. So I talked about the challenges, I talked about the opportunities, and then it's important then to recognize also what is needed to make sure that we can enable a framework that actually incentivizes us to do more of smart grids in the future. And to do so, we need to have a regulatory framework that really encourage us to use the smart and new technology. I think it's clear that the European energy package—
1 minute, Johan.
Yeah, clearly stated that the member states should not only enable, but also incentivize the procurement of flexibilities by the DSOs. This means that we need to make sure that the DSOs can recover the costs in a reasonable way, but also that we can make sure that we have a balance between traditional CAPEX and actually also use the new technology. Flexibility appears more likely as an OPEX cost, and we need to create the right balance in that. I also believe that we need to continue the digitization, and there we need to make sure that we have a weighted average cost of capital, a return on the investments in a way that also incentivize smart components as an add-on. And my final remark before I close is that the transition will generate additional technological solutions, but also regulatory risks. And those risks and the development that we see going forward also needs to be recognized and compensated in a regulatory framework. So that's 6 minutes for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johan. We are jumping to Henning Twickler. He is a policy director at ETSO, the European Association for DSO, and he will introduce us an ideal regulatory model. Usually they are professors having ideal model, but this morning we will get it from the industry. Henning, the floor is yours for 6+1.
Yes, thank you very much, Jean-Michel. I hope you can all hear me. I actually have a few slides that I would like to share, although I can do without if it's absolutely required. Because the host has disabled me to share the screen, but it's okay. I can also, okay, there it is, perfect. Okay, yeah, indeed, I was asked to speak about the ideal regulatory model, and actually I think many of the things that I wanted to say were luckily already said by Mr. Mernstam, so much of what he said I can only underline, and I would actually like by talking, and I know 6 minutes are not much, so I will keep it short, of course. Maybe we can move on to the next slide just to give you a brief impression of what the DSO industry actually represents in Europe. And of course, I know that it's E.ON Romania's 15th anniversary, so congratulations with that. But of course, you are one of many DSOs in Europe, and it is really a vast industry. If you look at the numbers, throughout Europe, there are 27 billion euros of annual grid investments, but also DSOs are the biggest spender on smart grid RD&I in the last few years, more than 823 million euros. So I think this really shows the enormous potential of DSOs actually to also help with the green economic recovery, as we are spread throughout the territories in Europe, providing a lot of jobs, but also having a huge investment potential. And then maybe skipping the next slide because it's more about our association, but I will not go into that due to the time constraints. Yeah, these are some of the things that have already been mentioned by Mr. Mernstam. We are actually at DSOs really facing a huge transformation. So we're going much more from a static system to a more dynamic and flexible system. And for DSOs, that means that not only we have new loads connecting to the system and more decentralized renewables, but also we have a lot more sensors. We have smart meters, of course, which increase the visibility of the network. And all this, so this increased visibility together with distributed automation create in the future a system of active system management. So we manage the past static system in a much more flexible, dynamic way in the future. And of course, that also has an impact on the investments where of course we need to think about what does it mean for capital expenditure, also for operational expenditure, and how does it change the way not only we operate the networks, but also the way we invest. And then going to the next slide. Of course, we have the changes in the networks, but at the same time, we as DSOs also have the task to actually increasingly integrate customers into the system. So not just act as a point of supply, as a connection, providing a connection point to deliver electricity, but also helping the customer to become more active. And this is, of course, something, as you know, that's required as well by the clean energy package. And going to the next slide, I have just listed very briefly here a few provisions that are very, very relevant, of course, in that regard. We see that the clean energy package, particularly the electricity market directive, asks DSOs to become, well, to enable active customers. Of course, the use of smart meters is very important there, but also to help new actors that are emerging in the energy markets, such as energy communities, for example, where DSOs can also help, of course, with their expertise when it comes to the operation of the networks. And we have provisions, which was also mentioned by Mr. Mernstam, on demand response through aggregation, on the use of flexibility, of course, and DSOs need to be incentivized to make more use of these novel tools and not just the classical grid copper investment. And of course, there the electricity directive is asking the regulators to incentivize DSOs, but there's also a provision in the market regulations. So distribution tariffs and tariff regimes need to be changed in such a way that this is more incentivized and easier for DSOs to make use of these solutions. And going from the legislative to the regulatory framework, indeed, yeah, we see that these changes must also follow when it comes to regulation. And what we need is incentivization of these new digital solutions, while at the same time, of course, also enabling the use of, or incentivizing on the one hand customers to use the networks more efficiently and to avoid new peaks, but at the same time also incentivizing DSOs to make use of flexibility. And still, of course, we know that the cost of our system is mostly capacity driven and not so much dependent on the energy volume. So the capacity element is very important, but at the same time, while we invest in more digitalization and flexible solutions, we should also think about how capital and operational expenditure come together, and maybe think of a new approach that would enable more flexibility and really for DSOs to go for the most efficient solution, may it be more operational or more capital based. So one could think of a TOTEX approach here.
1 minute, Henning.
Yes, okay, thanks a lot. And one other important point, of course, when it comes to enabling more innovation in the networks, is that we should also think of regulatory sandboxes, so allowing DSOs to test new models, although maybe the legislation and regulation doesn't currently foresee it, but to see what is most efficient and what can be implemented on a larger scale in the future. And then going to the next slide, with which I will conclude, just to give a brief outlook also on what the Green Deal means for DSOs. Of course, there are a lot of provisions that are also potentially relevant for us. We can look here at the acceleration of renewables, but also hydrogen networks, sector coupling, an important topic, of course, that should also be addressed by regulation. And then a few concrete pieces of legislation that are relevant for us. Well, I've mentioned the smart sector integration strategy, but also, and it's been mentioned in the previous panel, the recast of the 10E regulation, where of course we should also see what kind of regulation do we actually need. Should it only be about cross-border projects, or is there maybe a new definition we can also find for cross-border, and how can we actually make it easier for DSOs also to access these funding opportunities, as currently there are only 6 smart grid projects that are on the current PCI list. And I think that's something that we, together with the institutions, need to look at also this year. And indeed, so there are a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities when it comes to the legislative changes, but also the regulatory framework that needs to be adapted to the change situation. And that's it from my side for now.
Thank you, Henning. You could be prof at France School tomorrow because you think like a prof. And I fully agree with the approach that I can summarize this way. If you want smart grids, you need a smart regulation. If you want innovative grids, you need an innovative regulation. And if you want a Green Deal, you need a Green Deal regulation. Regulation cannot stay the same when we have so deep transformation ahead. And then we jump to Adrian Șuța, if I remember how to pronounce Romanian, Director of Regulatory Affairs at CNTEE Transelectrica. And he would like to speak about innovative cooperation, TSO, DSO, another very interesting topic. Adrian, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, John, for giving me the floor. And I have to say your pronunciation is a very peculiar Romanian name is quite impressive. 90% of my connational managed to misspell my name. So I have to hand it to you. You spelled my name perfectly.
Hallelujah.
So thank you for that. First of all, I would like to thank E.ON for the opportunity to share our thoughts on this very important topic, very interesting topic, and also to congratulate E.ON for a long-standing relationship with the Romanian energy sector. 15 years is not is actually a proof of a long-term commitment to the Romanian energy sector. Now, jumping to the actual topic of the discussion, the collaboration and innovative solution TSO, DSO to the benefit of the customers. I have to make a first mention that cooperation within the energy sector is, I think it is deeply embedded into the DNA of every single actor that is active within the energy sector across the supply chain, from generation to the system operator, to the transmission grid, distribution grid, and to an increasingly higher degree to the end users. In terms of cooperation at TSO level, the collaboration and strong cooperation at regional and pan-European level is deeply embedded into the root processes and into the DNA of the TSO community. And that is due to the nature of the interconnected operation of the transmission grid across Europe that has been happening for quite a long time now, I think at least 15 years. That kind of cooperation should probably be not replicated, as obviously the roles of TSOs and DSOs are very clear and distinct, but closer and enhanced cooperation at a national level between TSOs and DSOs are definitely a strict requirement, as the system as a whole will make a transition from the traditional way the system used to function. We need basically to take out from our mindset the traditional pattern of how electricity flows from big size generation units that feed bulky amounts of electricity to transmission networks that pass that electricity onto distribution networks, all the way down to the final point of supply to end customers. We have witnessed over the last 5 to 10 years a significant amount of distributed generation being connected to distribution networks, and a significant reverse flow, upstream flows coming from distribution networks to the transmission networks. So that basically provides a major challenge to how both transmission and distribution grids are being sized, are being planned. And this calls for more coordinated action between transmission and distribution, not only in the operational planning and actual real-time operation of the grids. That is also important, but also in the long-term planning of the grids, transmission and distribution. On the other hand, once there are massive amounts of distributed generation, renewable generation capacities, small-sized capacities being connected to distribution grids, obviously the DSO networks tend to increase their role in the overall system operation of the system. So we have dispersed generation, small size generation from renewable sources that are scattered across the grids. Most of it are connected to distribution level, and also flexibility resources that are much desired, much needed, much required in order to compensate for the intermittent nature of distributed generation needs to be harnessed in a very efficient and effective way. So it all started with a traditional generation mix that used to be dominated by the current and previous incumbents that run big size coal-fired power plants, gas-fired power plants. Over the past 10 years, there have been a number of death sentences that were issued to coal. So pretty much everyone is...
1 minute, Adrian.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything wrong with the quality of the sound transmission?
No, no. You have only 1 minute left, I was
saying. 1 minute left. So the very important role of DSOs at the moment is derived from the fact that most of the distributed generation and most of the flexibility resources tend to be connected more and more to distribution level, and distribution grids tend to be a major facilitator for harnessing the flexibility resources that can be used by the TSO in its capacity of system operator. So it is critical for the distribution networks to be able to be in good shape and to be able to connect as much flexibility resources to the grids. And we need to find ways to harness that substantial amount of flexibility resources that is mostly connected to distribution networks. We need to work more closely with the distribution system operators in order to build a technically sound and operational sound setup that will enable the overall system to tackle the massive amount of distributed electricity that will be integrated in the overall system, electricity that comes from renewable sources, that obviously is characterized by a significant variability or intermittent production.
Certainly, Adrian, but now you have to really end it.
Okay.
I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I agree with your general line. The distribution grid is becoming a very active part of the electricity system, and being a so active part of the electricity system, its cooperation with the TSO has to change, has to adapt. The TSOs have to adapt too. New tools have to be discovered, new rules have to be created. And again, the regulatory frame has to move because the core of the system was the dispatching center at the TSO level, but now we have another core being the active loop at the distribution grid. And this has to be recognized and to be the driver for new rules for the electricity system. Many thanks, Adrian. We are now going with Corina Popescu. She's CEO of Electrica SA. She wants to present us the DSO's capabilities for grid investment. Very good topic. Corina, the floor is yours. 6+1.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. Actually, a lot of things are already said. Investment in grid. So when the European Commission approved the Green Deal and published in the end of last year, all the stakeholders from Europe agreed that it's not possible to reach all the provision from this Green Deal without fair transition. Why without a fair transition, and why without fresh money or injection of the money in the grid? Because in order to reach everything that is there, and also in order to reach everything that is mentioned in the new European directive on the DSO, we need a lot of investment. And why we say that? I learned, because I'm an engineer, and I learned in the school that in the past we have a consumption curve, and then we start to cover this consumption curve with the classical sources, and only the difference with the flexible production. Now all these paradigms are changed, and we have the same consumption curve. We have green production, which is also flexible, and we need, in order to have security of supply assured, to cover something that are the differences between more or less two unpredictable curve using our grid. And in order to reach all this, we need actually to invest a lot in the grid, and we need to invest in the digitization of the grid. And I think to become and to reach all the new functions that the DSO will have based on the new European directive, these are the principle or these are the direction for the investment in the grid, with all the components. When we speak about digitization, we speak about, I don't know, starting with asset management and then smart metering, workforce management, SCADA, GIS, everything. All the systems need to be more or less like a clock which is functioning, and all these components need to be like an Helvetian mechanism, functioning one with others. So we as Electrica Group, we are, I don't know, for somebody which is now, we cover 3 different regions in Romania, actually 16 counties. We plan to invest also in the next period of time, especially in that direction. In the last period, we invest a lot in the grid, but unfortunately, our investment didn't reach the effectiveness of the investment. So we need also to become more smarter when we define our investment plan, and to identify the direction that need to be followed by all the DSO in the near future. On the other hand, to have all this investment recognized, we need also to change the regulatory framework. Because in Romania, what happened for this regulatory period, which is from my perspective critically, all the methodology for establish the distribution tariff was more or less not a methodology will help the DSO to take the decision to invest more in the grid. I think it's like a barrier for taking the decision to invest in the grid, which is very bad, because if we'll not succeed to define the sustainable investment, then we cannot reach the implementation of the new directive, the implementation of the measures that are in the plan for the next 10 years regarding efficiency, regarding energy efficiency, regarding investment, regarding green implementation of the green production, because we need to prepare the grid for this distributed production. And we can be in the situation not to reach our
1
target
minute, Corina.
for 2030, because I'm looking in the future. And from my perspective, the future means green, digitization, and sustainable production. Thank you.
Many thanks to you. You know pretty well what you do, and you know pretty well what you want. So I do not have to repeat. I have only to thank you for being so precise and accurate. We are now going with Tomáš Šipoš. Again, I do my best because I was not born Slovakian. Tomáš is head of regulatory affairs for E.ON Slovakia, and would like to give us a study of a case of PCI. The PCI is a European project said of common interest, and this PCI was in Slovakia. Tomáš, you have the floor, 6 + 1. Yeah, you have to unmute, Tomáš. You are speaking to you, not to us.
Okay.
Perfect. Go
Perfect.
on.
Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and giving me the floor to share our thoughts and our experiences on PCI project and indeed on PCI smart grids. Also, a lot of our previous speakers, they have mentioned the term of PCI and the importance for the future development on the energy grid. What I would like to share today is actually I would like to focus on 3 points. First of all, just to share some ideas, what is a PCI? Then what differentiates a PCI project from an ordinary, let's call it a business as usual investment of a distribution company. And finally, I would like to focus and put emphasis on our existing 2 PCI smart grid projects that we have in cooperation with our partner companies. So first of all, some thoughts on the PCI, because it was mentioned also in the previous session and also in our session that PCIs have a very high importance for the future development of the European energy network. But what I would like to share maybe with the audience is what is a PCI actually. Currently, PCIs are known as a key infrastructure projects of the European Union. There's a list of PCI projects that is adopted once in a 2-year period, and projects that are enlisted that they have the PCI status for 2 years, and this PCI status shall allow projects for some accelerated administrative procedures, for simplified permit granting procedures, and last but not least also the potential for co-financing, for gaining co-finances from the part of the of INEA. And currently the budget of CEF Energy is set at 5.3 billion euros for the current budgetary period, but also there are discussions for the next budgetary period, and it seems that the budget for a future CEF Energy project is going to be even higher. When it comes to CEF projects, there is totally currently roughly 150 projects, but out of these, as it was mentioned, only 6 projects are smart grid projects. And the reason that only 6 projects are smart grid projects, from our experience, is also explaining the difference between a PCI project and an ordinary investment of the distribution company. First of all, when it comes to a PCI project, distribution companies needs to find a partner company or an organization that is willing to cooperate with them in order to build a PCI project. So you need to look for partners, and by nature, distribution companies, unlike the TSO companies, they are not very much used to exchange the investment plans or coordinate some development in the regions. So the first point that is distinguishing PCI smart grid projects from a business as usual investments of a company is the need to cooperate with partners. The second point is that as a PCI project, you need to challenge your idea with INEA that is going to give you a grant, but foremost also with DGNR, whether the idea itself is rather European and not regional. So the project has to have a certain scale. So it's not focusing on a development or building of one line or one substation. So the complexity of the project needs to be very high. And last but not least, also the reporting and the fulfillment of the project, you need to follow a very strict agenda that you set in the grant agreement when the project shall be completed. So if I would like to conclude, the main 3 points that are distinguishing the PCI smart grid project from a normal projects of distribution companies, it's the need to have some external partners from another member state, then to have a rather big scale of a project, and last but not least, also to challenge your project with INEA to get the co-funding and then also to complete the project on time. And when it comes to our current experiences, and I'm very happy for that 2 of the 6 PCI projects in the smart grid area are projects that are in partnership with our company, with Západoslovenská distribučná. And the first one is the project E.ON. It's a project, joint project with the Czech company E.ON Distribuce. And then we have a sister project, Danube Ingrid. It's a project that is building on the idea of E.ON, but is focusing on the development of the remaining part of our distribution area. And it's a cooperation with Hungary. On the slide, you can see the budget of the project. So you see that these are rather big projects. The project E.ON is roughly 180 million euros. Half of the investment is in Slovakia, half of the investment is in Czech Republic, and it's a very massive investment into the development of the distribution grid in this area. The Hungarian project is even more ambitious. So the value of the project is 285 million euros. The realization period of both projects are more or less 5-6 years. And when it comes to the complexity, and this is the point I would like to share with you, what's the content, what makes this project smart compared to other DSO projects. So these projects have 4 big areas. First of all, we are also investing some resources to call it like conventional parts of the distribution grid. It means new substations and new smart
1 minute left.
Okay, smart features in the grid, but also on the IT part. And when it comes to a very simple answer, what is a smart grid project? Our reply is that smart grid enables the distribution company to see what is happening within its grid and to react on the features on a real-time basis. So if I have to conclude, it is really a long journey to become a PCI project because it takes like 2 years to develop the project idea, then to get the PCI status, and then afterwards, if your project is very good, you can challenge your idea with INEA and then get the co-financing rate. Our experience is that this journey has really the value. You have to challenge also your regulator and your national authorities to get everything on time. But at the end, you will also learn a lot about your organization, and your processes within the organization are also going to be better. And foremost, the distribution grid will be ready for the challenges of the future.
Thank you, Tomasz, for this excellent presentation. Also for winning the projects. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about 110 people attending the session. Look at the money, 200 million, 300 million. So there is financing available. Of course, you need time, you need to work on it, but anyway, you will work. So it's better to work on such an exciting project than to work and not winning anything. But up to you, you are not academic. Now we are going to Professor Pentiuk, a colleague. He's head of the electrical engineering department at the University of Suceava. If I remember how to pronounce, I've been in your country, in your town 41 years ago, but I do not remember how to pronounce the name. But the floor is yours, Radu. 6 + 1. No,
Good
yours.
day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you and congratulations from from organizing this forum. Geographical, I represent department in north-est of our country, and this department was hard hit by pandemic, and after 2 months, is department safe and healthy. And please come in Bukovina because it's very nice here in our department. We have a pre-UNESCO, and I suppose after this presentation, I would be another friend from Professor Jean-Michel Groschan. Please come in Bukovina. Professional, I represent University Ștefan cel Mare Suceava, dynamic university, a young university, 57 years old. Now, about my paper, is a paper with 12-point summary, and I try to fill in time you given. The development of energy system towards a smart grid is determined by concern from increases efficiency, increases the reliability of power supply, system reliability, reduces the carbon footprint and energy installation, increasing energy efficiency. Smart networks include renewable and distributed energy sources and a large number of computer systems, automatic command and control. In Romania, electricity supply system will also have to adapt to a significant increase in per capita electricity demand to the level of the development European countries. Currently, Romania is on the last place in Europe in terms of electricity use per capita. You can see table 1, and in the future, this indicator will be increased through 4 points. You can see in this table the position of Romania with 2,222, but the computerization of energy system, but also the changes have occurred, and their configuration have led to major changes in the structure of electricity supply, schema of users, and their resilience, providing users with high quality electricity. Distributed source. This structure of energy system has a strong tendency to move from the current centralized system to a decentralized system with renewable energy sources connected mainly in medium and low voltage network, composed of several areas connected in each other by both energy and computer connections. In this way, high voltage electrical networks are not involved. From the model in which the supply is made from top to bottom, top-down principle, we move to the model with bottom-up principle, supply, thus increase importance of local energy system. Something about smart network, do you know very good, provide a user-oriented service, increase the share of energy from renewable sources in the primary energy mix, maximizing the use of a jet infrastructure, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, high security electrical supply, high quality energy supply, economic efficiency of supply. The electrical network is a feature, smart grid. You can see this table 3 columns. The first one are characteristic features. The second one, the current network, and the third, smart grid. From this table, you can deduce the comparison of and the limits of the current network. Smart grid involves a control system that analyzes the performance of electrical network using distributed and intelligent controllers. The smart grid makes it possible to integrate small networks, microgrids that can also function as isolated system. You can see in the table 4, the main smart grid systems are shown in table 4. And the 5, the structure of smart grid, you can see generation, transport, distribution, process, station, opening, organization. And computer structure of modern power. The principal equipment is intelligent electronic device. It receives the data directly from the measuring transformers or sensors at the cell level. The information from ID via Internet communication is transformed to Internet. You can see CPS. Cyber security. Sure, given the large number of computer equipment and distribution system and sensitive information transmitted over the Internet, there is a risk of compromising them to the cyber attacks. Cyber attacks take place by, first one, compromising the Internet connection of the station. Second, unauthorized access of people to the network and equipment. And third, implementing malicious program malware. In order to limit the risk, it is necessary to adopt strict organizational and physical security measures. So, cyber security. 8, we have 4 points, feature programs A, B, C, D, and an important conclusion. The digitalization of the system is an essential condition to ensure the efficiency of electricity production, transmission, and distribution system, as well as the security users' energy supply. You can see a structure of smart electrical network. You can see a Faraday network.
1 minute
you
left,
can see
Professor
a microgrid.
Penchuk.
For us, it's very important to have a partenariat with E.ON, with Electrica, with Transelectrica, and you can see block diagram of the operator of the hybrid electricity generation system made in our university. Please, another here. Here you can see this block. With this block, we can make a single wire schema of a microgrid and optimal location of photovoltaic panels. And with this schema, please another one. We can do analysis of the flex distributed generation of the losses and microgrid. And now, in final, we propose you collaboration with the intelligent and electrical transformers. And another plate, please.
You have to end, Professor.
I have 1 minute, please.
1 minute.
1 minute. Thank you very much. We have a possible cooperation with E.ON, why not? Project research, because I present you electronic single phase transformer type SST for rural distribution system with 10 to 230 kilovolt input output voltage and active power to range to 10 to 20 kilovolt ampere per phase with electrical transfer power. Equipment is very interesting and very new concept. Is possibility to modernization the distribution grid from E.ON, from Electrica, from Transelectrica. This transformer, electronic transformer, is about contract with Institute of Power Energetic from Chisinau. Thank you very much.
To you. Many thanks, professors. You have brilliantly reminded us that what was the electrical system, totally centralized, totally hierarchical, managed from the dispatch room, is now with decentralized generation, microgrids, mini-grids, is becoming something like a system of systems. And it's, of course, much more challenging for people managing it, but in the same time, much more interesting. We are now going towards Yonut Vasile. He is Vice President of Environment Fund Administration, and he would like to discuss alternative programs for sustainable green infrastructure. Very interesting, very promising. Yonut, you have the floor. 6+1.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Monsieur Glachon. I'm speaking actually on behalf of Mr. Ion Vasile, who is the Vice President. I'm Paul. Nice to meet you and to see you all. It's so good to be just before the lunch break, so it won't take more than 2 hours. So we are from the Environment Fund Administration, which is an institution in coordination of the Ministry of Environment. And Mr. Stana on the first panel briefly went through the programs that we currently run. And I would draw attention particularly on some of them, and namely on the ones that helped us put some users, let's say smart users, potentially smart users, on the market. And I'm speaking about the what we call the Jalopy Plus program, which is a scrappage program. But basically, we currently have probably the highest incentive on electric vehicles in Europe, roughly 10,000 euros per electric vehicle. And on the prosumers program, which incentivizes the solar panel installing on private houses, on households. So we'll probably be putting on the market roughly 20,000 users, smart users, that would need potentially digitalization and would need a management system on a national scale. I'm speaking both on the prosumer side and on the EVs users that would hopefully once inject power into the grid. Other programs that we currently run are the public lighting systems in major cities, and building infrastructure, electric EV charging infrastructure across cities, and we'll be launching a program that addresses the main corridors on the TNT network across Romania. Therefore, on this infrastructure program, we face a challenge mainly with the TSOs and DSOs, in that we do not have the networks necessary to support what we intend to fund through the program. I mean, when we're speaking about fast charging vehicles, one needs power in the infrastructure places. And we currently discover that the highway networks and the national road network does not sustain that, or does not sustain that to the extent that we can support it. Therefore, and I take this opportunity to invite the TSOs and DSOs to a consultation round on this matter, and E.ON is wholeheartedly welcome to this consultation, to these consultations that we run. But other than EVs infrastructure, we should not discriminate, as the European directive on alternative fuel says. We should not discriminate and incentivize just the power side. We should look at on the gas side, on the CNG, LNG, and hydrogen. and this is another opportunity that I take to invite the TSOs of gas distribution networks to work on the CNG and LNG program and stated scheme that comes first before launching a program, and this should be in line with the Green Deal after all. The Green Deal, well, it's a bit fuzzy this stage, as we all know. But the Environment Fund should be the link between the endeavor that the Green Deal states and making it happen through certain institutions like AIB, EIB, that we can partner up with, and granting institutions like we are. And we come along with the European funds on this matter, and with the private, maybe public-private partnerships or the private investors that would come along and take this opportunity and invest in this kind of networks. One other important.
1 minute left.
Thank you. One important aspect that we should focus, and we will focus our financing on, is innovation, digitalization and innovation. That these two come together, and not only in the digitalization part, but in the alternative fuels and biofuels side. So this is another aspect that we should address. And as Professor spoke before me said, TSOs and DSOs are critical infrastructures. Therefore, they need to be protected because they will have a lot of users in them. And the financing should focus not only on pure CapEx, but this should include in the CapEx, it should include the cybersecurity side and all the threats that come with this beautiful endeavor of digitalization. I hope I didn't.
Many thanks to you. You did your job very well. You have shown that if we want to be serious with infrastructures for sustainability, we have to review the planning process, we have to review the investments, right, and we have to change the operating rules. So again, a lot of work, but as we know that a lot of money will come from the European Recovery Plan, billions and billions, and clean infrastructures are one of the key items in this recovery plan. Is very useful for the success of the European Recovery Plan to have people like you having ideas on how to manage the new process for clean infrastructure. Many thanks to you. We are going to end, and as we used to say, last but not the least, we have Ferenc Sulak. He is General Director at Delgas Grid and also board member at E.ON Romania. And the topic to the address is wonderful. The topic is, which is the plan for Romania? Ferenc, 6+1.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, to say what is the plan for Romania, I would say that I was trying to notice everything what was presented today by our panelists, and only one topic was missing from everybody discussion and presentation. Everybody, when he's speaking about smart grid and speaking about smart solutions, smart meters, everybody somehow is forgetting that we need really what we need smart people. And from this discussion and also from the Green Deal concept of the European Union, this is what is missing for me. Because if you are not putting enough resources in education, in the professional one in one side, in other side, in any kind of other education, we do not have any chance to, let's say, to reach that targets. In my eyes, and this is not a Romanian issue, I know, it's a general one, the real hurdle and the real obstacle in what we are trying to looking for is the missing of professionals, missing of good engineers, missing of good electricians, and so on. So maybe we will have a nice grid, we will be able to find resources, money for this, but without to put enough resources and to focus on education and starting from the maybe from the primary school, then is no chance to have that staff which has to operate this grid and which has to, let's say, to dream the new future for these distribution companies. Regarding Romania, and I know that I'm coming somehow to the ground from the top of the discussions. Why? Because here we have a specific challenge in the European Union, that we still have to operate a really old grid in this country. This is, let's say, more or less true for each distribution companies. So we have to find a balance how we are, let's say, planning and programming our investments. And in the meantime, when we have to have these maybe daily operational issues, and even these days we are fighting with a really bad weather here in Romania, so we have a lot of floods, and really it's clear that the climate is changing. So all in all, we have to not forget to dream about the future. And what I like very much in these speeches today, that basically helped also me, and it will help me to discuss with my colleagues about our dreams. Because our daily fight is one thing, and we have to have dreams, and we have to dream the future. And then if you have the dream, you will have also we have, let's say, the strategy. And if my dream will somehow achieve to have conference of smart people, and about the smart people, do not just about smart meters, smart switch gears, smart circuit breakers, and smart grids, then I will be sure that we will be able to make these dreams come true. Regarding the Green Deal, which is really important from Romanian perspective, is also the transition of the gas. We had some let's say, sentences on the gas, and I would like to discuss about this, to say maybe one sentence. You cannot reach the hydrogen without to go through the gas. So the way to the hydrogen is going through the gas. And this has to be understood by those who are dreaming about hydrogen. And also, why not, we can discuss also in another case maybe about the synthetic fuels, which are also based on natural gas and the hydrogen technologies. So innovation, creativity, and for this we need really passionate people who are passionate about this grid, who are passionate about our profession, and who, as I told you, who will make through these dreams what we have discussed today about it. I know that my time is minus 16 minutes, which is not a lot. So I will try to shorten what I would like to say. Last but not least, also, I would like to underline that I was here 15 years ago. I was in the team for privatization, and also I had the privilege to work for this company in starting from 2005 for some 5 years. Now, since 3 years ago, I'm turned back here, and I can tell you what we dreamed, our dreams from 2005. A lot of them, they are already in place, and they are already in operation. And this is due to the people who is working in this grid in each distribution companies. I saw that number of one of the presentation. They are working around about 330,000 people in these distribution systems, which is really a huge number. So again, I would like to thank to everybody in name of the group of E.ON for the really valuable speeches. And I hope that who had, let's say, the patients, they receive a lot of information and they are much richer than they were 2 hours and a half ago. Thank you.
Thank to you, Ferenc. It's not to you to thank us, it is to us to thank you, to thank E.ON. E.ON has shown today a wonderful, innovative company, realistic and innovative, preparing the future, taking care of the conditions to prepare the future, including the formation of the human resources. I can also tell you very frankly that human resources from Romania are excellent. My own deputy is from Romania. She's wonderful. And she was telling me that maybe she can return to the industry. So discuss with her. And I was also willing to say that discussion has been very good. First session, second session, very interesting. But you won't believe me. Yesterday, I was meeting at Harvard University, of course, on a platform like today. But the discussion was with research made with Nobel laureate Joe Stiglitz being the former chief economist at the World Bank. And this was discussed yesterday at Harvard with the group NL. I know it's not E.ON, but it's a big group also. And it has been discussed also a week before with the Minister of Economy in France. And they were saying, to the success of the green recovery, we have 5 priorities. Invest into clean research and development, invest into clean assets and infrastructure, invest into natural capital. What said your Secretary of State? You have to invest into your forest because forest has a big potential for the future. Invest into building retrofitting, but these 4 priorities cannot work if you do not have the 5th priority. And the 5th priority is education training. We need a strong push in education and training because we need people able to do all these things that we have to do. And we have to start with young people, education, and we have to start with the existing professional training. So what you said, Ferenc, is exactly what a former chief economist at World Bank and Nobel laureate was advocating himself. You think the same. So you can see that your company is totally on the same page, like very big people pushing very strong programs. And we need, all of us, companies, academics, researchers, banks, public banks, private banks, we need to work together because we have seen with the pandemic that if we do not prepare to be active, proactive, resilient, we won't make it. And we have to create the new industrial and technology base for Europe, for all the countries of Europe, and Romania is inevitably part of it, because we have to prepare the future. If we are resilient, we will be world leader. Or where we won't be world leader by our army occupying others, but we will be world leader by ideas, technologies, products, operation rules, and why not investments. We also have excellent companies in offshore wind, and they are leaders at the world level. So many things can be done. My conclusion is also done because I'm telling you what I think. And I may add only one image I will take from Mr. Koenig this morning. Mr. Koenig this morning was saying, the future I do not know because 15 years ago I was not knowing an iPhone, and I will take the same and I will use for me. I was born in a world where the phone was a fixed phone at home, and it's exactly what was the distribution grid 15 years ago. It was like a fixed phone. It was doing something always in the same way. Now, distribution grids are becoming interactive platforms They are becoming ways of managing decentralized generation, interactive consumptions, new intermediaries, and the distribution grids. They were the fixed phone, and they have to become, and they are becoming the smartphone. That's my conclusion. Thanks to E.ON for this excellent meeting and the excellent choice of discussions. And if I am thanking E.ON, of course, I am thanking Anca Dragou for the conception of the event, and Alina Arsani for the excellent organization in the corridors. Have a good day, and long life Romania. You have excellent people in Romania. You will be able to do many, many things. And remember that South Korea is become a world leader by the quality of the human resources, because they had nothing else. So you have human resources, you have several natural resources, you have investment and technology coming like E.ON is doing with you. You have a future. Anca, up to you to close it. Or Alina, I do not know who wants to close it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Michel. I don't have the camera on because the host doesn't allow me to turn it on, but that's okay. So what can I tell you? I was really nervous with a very short night for preparing this conference today. It was the topic very important. The guests were so impressive, and also we are through this special year of marking 15 years of E.ON in Romania. So all these elements made me so nervous, and my little team, we worked together. We escaped last 2 nights, but what can I say? We've got the opinions of all important thinkers in this in the energy sector in Romania and at the European level. My conclusion is that yeah, we have everything we need in terms of natural and human resources. We may need some more harmonized regulatory framework to stimulate investments. And what we also need is a clear calendar and to work together shoulder by shoulder with the authorities, private companies, consumers for achieving final objectives. My very last word would be to thank all our colleagues from the regional units for contributing with the materials to this event. We've got a very nice, it's like an X-ray of main challenges and opportunities on regulatory for boosting investments in grid. And so thank you very much for all our colleagues who contributed. Thank you very much to my colleagues here who helped a lot. Livia Stan, now Director of Public Affairs, and Alina Arsani, Specialist of Public Affairs of E.ON Romania, and all other people here in Romania team that made this event possible. Thank you so much. See you soon. We will come after you, all of you, with the position paper, and we will invite you to continue these discussions started today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.